What's up, my fellow actors? Kurt Yu here from actingcareercenter.com. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. I got another great actor interview for you. I'll be speaking with actor, writer, and producer Jody Thompson. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to quickly say if you are brand new to this channel, and I'm assuming you're an actor or you're looking to start to pursue an acting career, and if you're like a lot of actors, you may be looking for help with your auditions. You want to know what's the best way to prepare for an audition. Well, I've actually created a free 10-step audition preparation process that I call my audition cheat sheet. If you want to download that free cheat sheet, you can go to that link right up there. It's my own personal preparation process that I use to help me with my own auditions. That's helped me book dozens of movies and television shows. So again, if you want to download it, go to that link right up there. So today I'm going to be talking to Jody Thompson, who is an actor, a writer, and a producer here in Atlanta. Now, Jody's actually been an actor for a while now, but he just most recently became a writer and a producer because his new movie that he wrote, produced, and starred in called Still Today came out last November, out on all major streaming platforms. So if you're interested in checking out Still Today, I'll put a link down in the description below. So what I really loved about my conversation with Jody is that he shared so much about his own acting career, but he also talked about his approach to creating his own content and creating his own opportunities, which I think is really important for a lot of newer actors to hear, because it's so easy to think about the acting career as just sitting around and waiting for your agent to call you to give you auditions. But Jody talks about why it's important for actors to kind of take matters into your own hands and take control of your career. And that's why he decided to create the movie Still Today. During the interview, Jody also talks about a speech that really inspired him from actor Mark Duplass. It is a great speech. If you're interested, I'll put a link to that down in the description as well. All right, I'm going to stop talking now because we're going to get right to the interview, because I think you're going to learn a lot from what Jody has to say. So without any further ado, here is Jody Thompson. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Acting Career Center channel. We're talking about your brand new movie that you wrote and starred in. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it and how it came about?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. First of all, Kurt,
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Yeah, the movie's called Still Today. I probably 2015 did a movie called High Cotton with some guys over at Spy Plane Pictures. Um, and I met a producer there by the name of Tommy Walton. He did not direct High Cotton, but he was itching to make something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's work on something together. So I kind of had this idea for this film, um, and it took probably 3-4 months to write, but I wanted something kind of simple. I'm an old school fan of all the rom coms from When Harry Met Sally, The Sleepless in
Yeah,
Seattle,
yeah,
all
right.
those old school things. Uh, so I love those, and I wanted to make something in that vein, and something simple. And the cool thing about Still Today is that it kind of takes place all in one night, so you don't have to worry about wardrobe changes or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we just kind of uh, did the film, and I wrote it, and we went with it, and it took probably 20-25 days to shoot. We got an actress named Terry Weibel, she's super awesome. From I think she's in LA right now. At the
Mm.
time, I think she was in the Atlanta market.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, she's super talented. So we have a lot of crazy good Atlanta talent.
Yeah,
Mark
I
Ashworth,
recognized a lot of them. Yeah, Mark
yeah,
Ashworth.
Mark
Yep.
Ashworth, and I did actually did high content with Mark. He's
Okay.
an old school friend of mine. A really old school friend of mine is a guy named Thomas Elliott, who's super funny, super hilarious. He was in it. Brooke J. Taylor, I think
Yep.
Cornwell, whichever she goes by,
Yeah.
she is super funny and awesome
Yeah.
in the film. So
Yeah.
we just had a great pool of Atlanta actors. So it was cool to kind of do something where I'm working with friends basically, and that
Which
that
is
was
really like the industry, right? From like the bottom to the from like the top echelon of Hollywood. That's the industry. Is people working with friends. They're just more famous.
100%.
Yeah.
I did an episode of a show back in the day called Eastbound and Down. It
Hmm.
had Danny McBride, and
Yeah.
Danny. Uh, I sat there and watched him the whole time. It was him and Jody Hill was the director, and these guys went to college together, and they made their
Yeah.
first college film together.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, "Oh, they're doing the exact same thing that they were doing in college.
Yeah.
They're just getting paid a jack ton more money
Yeah.
for it. You know, that's
It's
it."
it's
It-
like the creators of Cobra Kai. Like those producers, was it three or four of them? They're all just they're college buddies, and they've been doing it
yeah,
for
of
forever.
course.
Yeah.
Those
So
guys are. I think that's the secret, bro. If you can
yeah.
never, no matter how big you get, if you focus on making your two, three, four, five friends laugh, and that little
Exactly.
pool is
Yeah.
like, oh, that was awesome, man. You did great in that scene, whether it's a comedy or drama or whatever. It's like your one friend okays it, and you're not worried about trying to make something for the masses and just
Yeah.
making your buddy laugh.
Yeah.
You're gold, baby. You're gold. You know?
Exactly. No, I totally agree. So you said that you had this idea when you met these people that you came together with to kind of flesh it out. But how long had you been sitting on the idea of the movie?
Well, the idea was just a kernel of an idea. I just,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, I had something that I a Pretty Woman's one of the old school rom coms that I love, and this is sort of an homage to Pretty Woman in a
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
Um, but I just the economy of the film was really important to me. You know, we knew that we couldn't make something that had alien abductions and
100%.
jackknife
Yeah.
18 wheelers and
Right.
and stuff, but we just didn't have the budget. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I, Terry, the actress, she wears the same thing throughout the film. I
Yeah.
wear the same thing throughout the film. This just the economy of the film was super important. But as far as writing the film was concerned, like I say, it took probably 3-4 months to kind of flush. I would do the writing, then I would meet with Tommy,
Hmm.
who is the director,
Hmm.
and we would kind of flush out ideas over coffee, and
Hmm.
then I'd go back to the drawing board and write again.
Hmm.
I do want to say, as an actor, it's super important to the idea of having a script is, I know this sounds really dumb, but it's super important to have like a locked in script. I've ran into so many actors who are like, "Oh, we're going to make a movie." And they're just kind of running and I'm like, "Tell me about the script." They don't even have a script. We kind
Right.
of, it's more of an outline or
Right.
something, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to one guy and he was like, "Yeah, we had a reshoot." And I was like, "Yeah, I know you had
Yeah.
a reshoot, bro,
Right.
because you didn't have a script."
Right.
You, it's so important to have like something locked in
Yeah.
to go off of, you know. And
Well,
these guys who are like trying to make a movie off of nothing,
yeah.
you got to be Larry David basically to pull that off. You
Well,
know?
I imagine that's probably something that you learn throughout your career as you know, we progress through our careers as actors. We see, you know, even though we're on the acting side, we see mistakes that people are making on, you know, on the other side of the camera, and you know, that probably led to you, you know, keeping that note in your head of, you know, when I do this myself, I'm not gonna make those mistakes, right?
Oh, 100%. I think the important thing is Terry, for instance, in this film, the way she acts is she is like, that script is gospel. Like she is locked in
Hmm.
to it pretty much word for word.
Hmm.
I, on the other hand, as an actor, I like to play and
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
go off a little bit, and then
Hmm.
But the good thing about Terry, she was able to kind of let me play, but steer me back in to the
That's
locked in
great.
script. You know, so that's
Yeah.
so for me, it's so important to. I love improvising. Not an insane amount, but if whatever script I have,
Yeah.
if I'm able to improvise and it warrants that, then it's my go-to thing that I love to do.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that specifically for auditions too. What is your process when you go to an audition? We'll get back to the movie in a second, but I think this is important for a lot of people because I think a lot of new actors, or even not even they may not be new, but people always wonder, how much room do I have as far as improv goes, as far as like how much should I stick to the script? And I think everybody has their own method of doing things. I'm probably a little bit more like you in that I will tend to take more liberties with the script. I'll kind of make it my own if I feel like it, and not worry so much about, oh, is this gonna piss someone off? If it does, then there's nothing I could really do about it because we don't we don't get a chance to ask them those questions.
Yeah,
But I'm not
yeah,
trying to make anyone mad. I'm just like I'm trying to have fun with it, play with it, make this my own, and hopefully that strikes a chord with somebody, right?
yeah, 100%. Commercials. If it's a commercial audition, I feel like that's basically most commercials. There's, or at least around here, there's hardly any dialogue, and it's based around action half the time. And
Yeah,
so I feel like that's just common sense that you can do any kind of
yeah,
improvising there. Uh, all I'm doing is trying to make whoever. I personally, just so you know, my wheelhouse is it's comedy.
mm-hmm.
So trying to make whoever in the room laugh
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. But as far as um, actual scripted scripted film, television, I still take liberties, but not too much. It just depends. I did a film back in the day called Hound Dog,
Mm-hmm.
and I played this preacher. And I remember it was this thing where my agent had accidentally given me the wrong sides. It was like a truck driver.
Okay.
And this is one of those. Kurt and I were talking before that we used to have to drive. I used to have to drive to Wilmington and Shreveport. So this is one of these where I'm driving up
Yeah.
to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I remember thinking this is an eight. It's a trucker part, like the description: beard, 300 pounds. I'm like that is me to a T. You got me on lock there.
Yeah.
Not at all. But
Yeah.
there was this other part of this preacher. I was like, man, I would love to do this preacher part. So I started just kind of looking at those sides of the preacher, but I did not have it memorized. I was just glancing over.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up to Wilmington, and Lisa May, casting director there, comes up and she's like, "You ready?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "You're doing the preacher, right?" And I said, "Yes, I am."
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I grew up like going to church and stuff, and so I knew I wasn't scared. I knew, like, I've seen plenty of sermons when I was a kid, so I didn't know the lines at all.
Mm-hmm.
I knew things in there, but I
Yeah.
really didn't know the script as a whole.
Yeah.
So when I went in, and this is getting us back to the part of improvising.
Yeah.
When I went in, I was just like, just do what you did growing up,
Mm-hmm.
what you used to hear growing up,
Mm-hmm.
a preacher. And brother, I basically did a little church service right in the middle, and
Yeah.
I would a line or two I would remember from the script, would come
Yep.
back and put it in.
Yep.
Long and short of it is, I got the part,
Hmm.
and the only important thing that the director did is in the audition. She's like, that was amazing. She goes, will you make sure that you say this line?
Mm-hmm.
There was a key line that she wanted me to say, and I
Mm-hmm.
went back and I did it again, inserting that line,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I got the part. So my
So the
point is,
director was in the room
the
for
director was in the room for that.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So um, yeah, not like these video things that we're doing
Yeah, right.
nowadays,
Yeah.
kids. So it's so important to me. That's my favorite thing: being in the room with the director,
Mm-hmm.
being able to see their response immediately,
Hmm.
and you can kind of know when you walk out of the room,
Yeah.
I crush it or I didn't crush it,
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Okay,
really
so
good.
let's pull this back to still today. Another question I had. So I was researching you a little bit and looked up your IMDb, and you've been acting for a while now. Like I see your earliest credit was back in the '90s. So,
Thank
um,
you, thank you for making me feel.
when you well, from your IMDb, it looks like this is your first writing credit. So have you written anything else before? This was just
No,
like this
no,
was your first time.
this would be my first.
So what was it that's kind of sparked it after 20 some years that you wanted to write and to go straight to a feature? Because so many people, start off writing shorts and then you just decide to
Sure,
go for it and just go right
sure.
to writing a feature.
Well, being in the business for as long as I have,
Hmm.
you get a little frustrated sometimes. Still going out for certain size roles. You feel like maybe I haven't progressed enough, and you're like, I just want to spread my wings a little bit. I want to fly. I want to show people that I can fly. Um, so sometimes you got to take the reins in your own hand
Yeah.
and do it yourself. So that was kind of a catalyst. I'd met my friend Tommy, the director. He was itching, and I was like, "Well, we're going to do something
Mm,
that hopefully both can kind of uh, spur our careers."
yeah.
That the reason I did not do a short film, which um, a lot of people do, but
Yep.
I felt I could do a feature film, and B there's no money in short short
Sure.
films at all.
Yeah.
There it's just to me it's an ego stroke of going to a film festival or whatever it is, and people are like, oh, you did a great job, and
Hmm.
that's what it is. And I don't need my ego stroked. I've felt that I've been doing this long enough, and kind of you see the same pattern and cycles over
Yeah.
and over. So sometimes, brother, you just got to mix it up a little bit and try something different. So
Yeah. So the plan
we're super
was,
proud of it.
yeah, yeah, it is amazing that you had it's your first feature that you wrote, and I mean, I feel like almost just getting it made is such a huge accomplishment, but
Oh,
not only that.
any movie is a miracle.
Exactly,
People who
exactly.
any you can sit and you can um rip someone's work down in 2 minutes, and it's okay. But that person spent 3 5 years of their life. They put their heart and their soul
Yeah.
into it, and people want to. I think a lot of people secretly don't want other people to succeed. It's just a selfish thing.
Hmm.
But I am I can always look at my buddy Tommy and just
Hmm.
be like, "Hey, bro, we did it. We've
Yeah.
made a film. And we did it without any contacts from the Atlanta market. We
Hmm.
did it as far as getting it distributed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like have to pull favors of people that I knew from here. I
Yeah.
because I the old adage, don't ever have your friends and family tell you that you're good, because then you're
Yeah.
probably not.
Yeah.
They're not gonna
Yeah.
they don't want to let you down.
Yeah.
So I wanted someone that I did not know at all, and a buddy of mine who EP'd this, Randy McDowell, put us in touch with uh, a law firm out in LA, and they
Hmm.
got it to about 10 distributors, and we heard back from 6 of those, and we went
That's
with
incredible.
Gravitas.
That's
So, and
incredible.
Gravitas is, we couldn't have been happier
Yeah.
with
Congratulations.
working with them.
That's really incredible to, like you said, to not only just get it made, because that's the miracle in itself, but then to get it, get distribution for it, is amazing.
Yeah, we hope, if you guys haven't seen it, it's called Still Today. It's on Amazon, and it's on iTunes and all digital platforms. Or if you're old school, like my dad, they have these things called DVDs.
Go buy the DVD.
You could get the DVD. But we love your support if you get a chance, and you love Atlanta film, then this would be a great way to support it. So
Yeah, well, let's kind of now piggyback off that to just talking about the Atlanta market then. Um, you said you've been here acting in the Atlanta market for a while. What is your what are some of your feelings about the Atlanta market? I've been here 4 years or so. I've talked about it a few times here on my YouTube channel about what I've learned since coming here. But what are your feelings for being like an Atlanta market veteran here
well,
about the
I'll tell
the
you,
industry?
it is it is hard to change. First of all, sometimes your brain still thinks that it's 20 years ago,
Mm,
and it's not. This whole market has kind of changed.
mm-hmm,
I miss. I feel like my as far as auditioning, I feel like my hit rate goes up 80% if I'm in the room. It's
mm,
so important, and it's
mm.
such a skill that no one else has.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
everyone does everything on tape, and yes, the guy may have nailed it, but he may have had to record it 10 times, and
Right.
then he goes on set and doesn't know what the heck he's doing.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, that's there goes the Atlanta market. It
Yeah.
sometimes it gives you like a bad rep.
Yeah.
So I feel like more old school actors like myself or Thomas Elliott or any of these guys who are used to being in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And about the only casting director I know that does it is Megan Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Always does
Mm-hmm.
stuff in the room, and I love Megan. She's one of
Yeah.
my favorite casting directors. I think every once in a while Chase and Tara do stuff in the room as well.
From what I've
It used
heard
to be
from what I've heard from them, from Chase and Tara, is that they've only done it in the room for their initial auditions when it's the production that specifically requests it. But I do think if it was all left up to them, they're doing everything taped.
yeah, and there that to me is there therein lies the issue. Sometimes I do these, and I know a lot of people feel this way. I do a tape, and I feel like I crush it,
Hmm.
and I don't hear anything back. I feel like there's no possible way if they're getting 400 submissions for one role that they're looking. I'm not saying Chase and Terror. I'm saying
Mm.
as a whole.
Yeah.
I think there's like I'm saying, one of the reasons I love Megan Lewis is because I think she picks like 3 people or
Hmm.
4 people for a
Hmm.
role. She knows she's very
Hmm.
specific about what she
Yeah.
wants. But
Yeah.
other people have a bigger pool that they're pulling
Yeah.
from, and it's harder for them to kind of see all those
Yeah.
things. And maybe they have an assistant or someone who's trying to weed through all these videos, but no
Hmm.
one's going to sit there and watch 400 videos.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I
no
think
one is doing that per role.
what I would
I don't think.
guess, what I would imagine, like if I try to put myself in their shoes, what I would imagine is that they do probably they request a ton of people, so they're not seeing 3 or 4, they're seeing way more than that. But since they're watching tapes and not having people in the room, they're not watching the whole audition through. They could probably see within the first few seconds
Oh, sure,
if it's not going to
sure,
work, right?
sure,
So I
sure.
think they can get through more in that respect. There's going to be pros and cons to everything. I think there are huge benefits to the up and coming actor, for someone who's brand new who's trying to break in, because I think it's very hard for someone brand new to probably get an audition with Megan, because she only sees a handful of people, and she's going to bring
Right.
in just the people that she trusts. But it's probably easier for them to just get their foot in the door and get seen at least once or twice from someone who does tapes, because they're gonna see more people. So I think there's trade offs for sure, and I think that is a great thing about the Atlanta market is you do have casting directors that primarily see self tapes, but you also have other CDs like Megan who primarily do in person, and you get that mixture.
Yeah. You've been signed out because your account is what? I
I
don't know what this
still
is.
hear you and see you, so I don't know.
Okay, good. All right, sweet. Um, yeah. I all that haven't been said.
Yeah.
So all the tapes and everything like that, it's harder for an old school guy like me who uh, is used to being in the
Mm-hmm.
room, to go and kind of pour your heart out on an audition and then hear absolutely squat,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So because back in the day, you would just be like, "Hey, what did they think? Can I get some feedback, or can
Yeah,
I
yeah.
whatever on this?"
That's
You know.
interesting because I've
So
never really I've never had that because I've always like that's all I've known is taped. Even when I was up in Ohio, it I we had some in person, but those we never read for the director or the casting director. Like in Ohio, like very few things were had a casting director.
mm.
You would like the agent kind of played both roles. So there would be taping rooms at the agencies. I know a lot of the agencies here used to have
Yeah,
taping
we
rooms, right?
used to do that at the People Store when I was with them.
Yeah,
They would let you come in
yeah.
and tape, and
So I
so
used
that
to
was
tape either at my agency or it just got to a point where, because if I went into my agents to tape, it was just very mechanical. You just walk in, they press record, you do it, and you go home. And I feel like, well, this is the same as if I taped at home. So I started teaching myself how to self tape, and then so basically since the beginning, I've kind of been a self taping actor. Like,
yeah.
the amount of times that I would go to the room, especially since coming down to Atlanta, has been probably the same as your experience in the last 4 years. Like whatever percentage that is, that's been my experience of like going into the room. So it's very low, very
Yeah.
uncommon when I go into the room for an audition. So it's such a interesting landscape the way that it has changed, and
What
especially
I have
people.
friends who live in LA, and they they rarely do self tape.
Right,
Everything
right.
is in the room. And here's the tip I would give um, any actor who is blessed enough to have to be able to go in for a callback or whatever with the actual director in the room. And it's this, especially if it's like a smaller role, um, it has nothing to do with half the time, most of the time. It has nothing to do with the dialogue or the performance or anything. At that point, you assume that you can do the performance. Let's
Mm-hmm.
assume that you can do it. It
Mm-hmm.
has everything to do with the joke you make when you walk in the room,
Mm-hmm.
with the comfort level that
Mm-hmm.
you have, with the saying something that I can't tell you how many times I grew. I remember I grew up in a town called Lithonia, and I think the director one time asked me, "Hey, where are you from?" And I said something stupid like L Town or something. He was like, L Town. I was like Lithonia, just dumb little
Yeah,
banner like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So when I'm on set, dude's like, L Town, what's up?
yeah.
That those little moments, those little any kind of you're in the room for such a short time, anything
Mm-hmm.
you can do to connect with them
Yeah.
without being obnoxious
Right.
is magic.
Yeah.
You know, it's super important. Um, almost it almost is a skill in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that to me is the hardest part about the self taping because
Right.
I can't look at somebody and go, L Town, what's up?
Right.
None of that stuff. It's
Yeah.
just straight to performance. The
Yeah.
only thing they get from me is a little slate at the end, and you can't jazz up a slate
And
that
they're
much
probably
on
not watching it anyway.
they're not watching it. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, that's one of the things I miss the most as far as performance wise and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think part of it also does come down to like personality because I'm not the person who's gonna go walk into a room and like crack a joke right away. Um,
Right.
like what I rely on, if for my in person auditions, what I rely on is like I'm just the professional. Walk in, do my job.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm done. And that's just me. That's my personality. It would feel I guess it just would not feel authentic for me to go in and
Right.
try to crack jokes because that's
Yeah.
not
Especially if you're not comfortable
yeah.
or yeah.
Um, you know, if something comes up, then yeah, I'll say something. But otherwise, you know, I go in, I do my job, and then that's it. But
I rely on nudity a lot as well
yeah, yeah,
when I
right.
go into an audition. You know, it's just like, now, you want me to drop now? Is this no?
Or you don't even ask, you just do
Okay,
it.
that's fine. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
um,
That's right. No, but to your point, I will say this: there's, as far as the cracking and Joker, there's
mhm.
such it's such a that's why I'm saying it's a skill in and of itself.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, it's a
very
fine
thin
line
line
for sure,
becoming
for sure,
from becoming funny to becoming obnoxious.
sure.
And to the other important thing, which is what you just said, reminded me of, is the second you're done with your performance, no wisecracking, no
Right.
jokes, no anything. I'm done. It's like pit lights out.
Yeah,
Always Costanza that mother. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
you leave them wanting more. You know, and
yeah,
it's super important to get the heck out and like I say, leave them wanting a little bit more of you. I've always said I want them to say to themselves, I would I would love to hang out with that guy for a
yeah,
couple of weeks or a couple of days or
yeah, yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, that's an important thing, right? Because that's what they're going to be doing, and you don't want them to have a negative feeling about them, like to not want to be, you know, not want to be on set with you. That's
Yeah, a hundred
right.
percent. So, I I think I did a show. Um, Ryan Glorioso cast it called. Oh, what is the name of it? It is The Purge. The Purge.
Yeah.
Have you heard of The Purge?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, I've read
based on
for
the
it a
movies.
few times. Yeah.
Okay. There's a show called The Purge. I also think uh, get, going back to talking about this as far as professionalism
Mm-hmm.
and being on a set, and you know, for a long time, Atlanta actors. Uh, I think there was this thing where it's like, oh, he's just an Atlanta actor, or he. I kind of always had a chip on my shoulder because I would be like, bro, I've been acting 10 years longer than whoever the LA actor was
Yeah.
saying that.
Right.
Oh, he's an Atlanta actor.
Mm-hmm.
But back to that professionalism thing you're talking about, there is nothing to me stronger than going in and just crushing your scene or whatever. I did this show called The Purge,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember hearing them laughing from Video Village,
Mm.
like all of them, just like
Mm-hmm.
there's something awesome about people coming up, kind of being like, who are you again, or who is this guy, or who,
Yeah.
you know, that
Yeah.
that kind of feeling lets you know that you're kind of that you're saying your game is still strong, because
Yeah.
sometimes acting is a big doubting game,
Yeah.
and
A
you
lot of the times, for
a
sure.
lot of the time,
Yeah.
brother, and
Yeah.
you have to go back and remember those dragons that you've slayed in the past, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and especially if you've been doing it as long as I have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be pulling out a credit. Whoa, I did blah blah, and they're like, yeah, that was great in 1998. That was an
Right.
amazing movie.
Right.
Way to
Yeah.
go, buddy. You
Yeah.
know, but it's so I think reminding yourself of, I'm I'm trying to say this without you don't want to, not bragging or anything, but it is important to remind yourself of the dragons that you've slayed in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how important that is, you know,
Yeah.
because
And I think it also, you know, goes back to your point way back in the beginning of you know, as much as you can, you continue to work on things with your friends. If you can make your friends laugh, you know that it's still working. You know, something's still working. That you got something to strive for sure.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
But going back to like because we've been talking about casting a little bit. Did you actually go through a full casting process for Still Today?
Uh, No, because there was, I mean, a little. I would say a little bit, but
Okay.
we would have names referred to us.
Mm.
So as far as actual sitting, I hate the casting process because it's a kind of a weird model, a broken model, where these people are having to kind of, um, you know, uh, notoriously Robert De Niro was an awful auditioner,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
and he's freaking Robert De Niro, you
Mm.
know. So
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with that system
Yep.
when Robert De Niro walks into a room and gives like a terrible performance just because it's two guys sitting behind a table
Yeah.
and it's like go ahead,
Yeah.
and they're hardly looking or they're whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a kind of a weird process. My point is I didn't want to put people through that,
Mm-hmm.
so I got most of my friends that I could. Brooke
Mm-hmm.
Taylor was able to put us in. She's the one that put us in contact with Terry,
Mm.
and Carlos Avalez is in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other people like that. She put us in contact with. There were only a couple people that we had maybe two or three choices that we kind of had to narrow it down.
Okay.
So the casting process, I love just kind of picking from my
Yeah.
pool. You
Yeah.
know, it's again working with friends. Is there anything better? You
Yeah.
know, so
Well, up until like now, like everything we've talked about, there's a lot of similarities to a movie that I recently did. Carlos was also in it, um, called By Night's End. And it just came out earlier this year. Very similar to kind of the way that you approached uh, Still Today, because I had no role in the writing or the creating of the movie. I was just an actor in it. However, um, also uh, shot in the it takes place in one night, so no costume changes. It was
yeah,
very similar to your description of like this
super
is
smart.
um, they did a lot of that pre-production work because they knew that they had this limited budget, and and it also drove like the writing of the movie too. They kind of wrote it for what they're gonna be able to do
Sure.
on set. And it was the writer and director. His name's Walker Whitehead. He wrote and directed it. But Walker, it was his first feature film that he wrote as well, first time directing it. And
Did he star in it or
he
no?
didn't star in it. So he just wrote and directed. And then myself, Michelle Rose, Michael Aaron Milligan, Carlos, handful of other, just a very small cast, right? And we were the actors in the movie, and it also got distribution. It's such a similar storyline to Still Today, but I think that there are a lot of the commonalities of it is that you did do that pre-production work beforehand because you knew what you could do and you knew what you couldn't do. You didn't want to overstretch
Right.
what you had, right? And it worked out, and got distribution, and it shows that you don't have to be one of those big heavyweights to be able to do that as long as you're kind of approaching it in a smart way.
Yeah, it's so important. There is um, a speech from Mark Duplass. You know who
Hmm.
Mark Duplass is? One
Yeah,
of the Duplass brothers.
yeah,
Uh, been making independent films for forever. They're
yeah.
awesome. And probably 5 years ago, he spoke at South by Southwest,
Okay.
and I'll never forget that speech. This was kind of around the time the movie was brewing for Still Today.
Hmm.
The speech basically was he said, "I know we've all heard of someone who had a script and their friend worked at Warner Brothers, and somehow that script was passed up all the way to the president of Warner Brothers, and it winds up on his desk, and he takes it and he looks and he reads it and he green lights the movie, and he said, "I know we've all heard that story." He said, "But you know what? I don't know anyone personally who that has happened to, and none of my friends know anyone who that has happened to. So what I'm trying to tell you is this: the cavalry is not coming. They're not coming to save you. They're
Mm,
not coming to rescue you.
mm,
And then he said, but if you take the time to work and write and do your own thing, one day, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will wake up and you will look and you'll find out that you are the actual cavalry and
mm,
you kind of saved yourself, you know?
mm.
And I found that very, very inspiring, you know? No one's coming to rescue you.
Yeah.
But if you take the time to do the work, the pre-production, like you're saying, ahead of time, and do this movie, and then when it's done, you know, a couple years later, hit another movie, then just keep going, throwing spaghetti. You never know what's gonna stick. It's super important.
That's a very inspirational quote. I love that. I'm gonna look that up and save it for the future. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
It's a like I think a 30-minute speech or something, but
mm,
it is Mark Duplass, South by Southwest. It's
okay.
a heck of a speech.
Well, I think
Amazing.
when the amount that you told me about it. I mean, it's kind of geared towards the scripts and how that progresses down the line. But I mean, it's the same for just actors too, right? And
Yeah,
it's probably the same. That's exactly what you said earlier of what kind of led to you actually writing the movie because there's only so much we can do of waiting for auditions to come and waiting for the right role to come and who knows when if and when that is ever going to happen. So many actors like yourself take matters in their own hands and you create your own content and it's such a big thing. You look like um, the most famous example, obviously, Sylvester Stallone and
yeah.
Rocky, right? And there's other examples similar to that of people just like tired of waiting for the industry to come to them. You just make it and see what happens. And the worst thing that can happen is, like you said, you still create a miracle in making a movie, right?
Right. This is you know, you asked one of the reasons why I made this. So there, you look at moments in your life also. But before we started filming, Kurt and I were talking about he was saying he's from the Ohio market and he was planning on staying there, but then he heard about Atlanta. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing he knew is that he wasn't going to pull up and move to LA
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Well, I am about to date myself, but I did move to LA, I think in '98. So I was there a few years. And getting back to your point of just kind of waiting on an agent or waiting on whatever, basically, I was working at like, I think I was working at a YMCA, bro. And then you would wait for your agent doing auditions in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I did two, maybe three jobs in 2 years, but you had to be in LA because, you know, that's where everything is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My point is this: that 2 year period, I look back on and I was like, man, I wasted my time there. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
should have been doing something proactive, whether that's a groundlings, taking classes at groundlings and doing that program,
Mm-hmm.
going to do stand up at the comedy store or wherever else. I should have been doing that stuff.
Right.
Like, do not wait around for your agents. They are not the magic pill.
Yeah.
You should be retro active in doing something yourself and getting it done because the cavalry is not coming. They're not coming to save you. You got to do something yourself. Sit down. The beauty of writing is, guess what? When I'm done, I can walk in that room in there and I can start writing. And yeah, it may take 5 months, but day after day after day, you're gonna wind up with something meaty at the end. You know, you go back and do it and do it and do it. Your first script may be garbage, but you know what? You're gonna get better and
Yeah.
better and better.
Or the
And it's
first
so
draft
important to
might be
be.
garbage, but you improve upon it until it becomes something better, right? Um,
That is 100%. You know, it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
important just not to wait around. And all that to say is like, I another catalyst for me doing this movie is you know thinking back on that time in LA.
Mm,
I was like, man, I could have been doing so much more with my
mm,
time.
mm.
Didn't write. I really just sat around and waited for my agent to call me, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think creating your own content is one part of it. I think another part of it too, uh, as far as just being proactive, because there's a lot of the acting career can feel like you're sitting around, like we've just talked about. So one proactive thing can be, start writing, create your own content. Another thing is just like the networking part of it is meeting all those people that we talked about earlier. Is when we can create that network of people that you're supportive of one another, and you kind of try to grow in this industry together. And even if you, like myself, I don't love writing, but I've networked enough that I've met some people that do love to write, and they've asked me to be in their projects, and that part of it is such a big big thing too, because that's another I'm not waiting around. It's not a project that my agent is calling me for. It's just, this
Right.
is stuff that we're making with our friends.
That's it. Yeah, it's so important. I just feel like it doesn't have to be writing, but I feel like there's something you can do
Mm-hmm.
to sharpen your career. I do want to say, and I'm guilty of this. I think a lot of actors are guilty of this. Another thing is this IMDb. Oh, let me see where my IMDb number is, or let me see where my brand is, or my
Oh, the star
whatever, or
meter.
this.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, bro, you don't need it. It has
Yeah.
your IMDb number and your brand. First of all, you were a dead body in Swamp Murders. You don't have a brand, okay?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, don't worry about your brand right now. It has nothing to do with the actual art of acting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that um, was a catalyst for writing the script is I would check my IMDb number, and then
Mm.
that it's kind of poison, right? Because then
Mm.
you would check someone else's, and you look and you go down this rabbit hole, and before
Mm.
you know it, you've spent an hour and a half online. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself, bro, I could have written five
Yeah.
pages
Yeah.
in the amount of
Yeah.
time it took to do this,
Yeah.
and insert whatever you have a passion for.
Yep.
Just working on your craft,
Yeah.
or Kurt doing the fact that he's actually doing something right now with this channel is amazing. Like, people are actually learning things that they would not have known. Like,
Yeah.
he could have sat on his butt and done absolutely nothing, and I would have never met you. But
Mm-hmm.
he's taking a step, taking a time to do this, and I think it's so important. Just again, back to the not waiting around, not wasting your time worrying about, oh, what is so and so doing? Let me see where their IMDb number is, or let me
Mm-hmm.
see what my agent is doing, or that person got that audition for this. Stay in your lane, focus on what you're doing, try and strengthen what you're good at, whether it's comedy or drama or whatever, uh, and get after it.
100%. Man, I agree with all of that. That totally speaks to me. Um, so I think, yeah, with my YouTube channel, it was kind of the thing where uh, and part of it was inspired by not, you know, just sitting around and waiting all the time. And I said, well, what's something that I can do that can just be, that I have complete control over, right? And I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about anybody else telling me, when I can and can't do it. So it's something different from the actual pursuit of acting, but it's also like there's parts of it that are connected, and then like I said, a big part of it was that I dictate when I want to do it, and every time I put up a new video, I was like, all right, great, I created something again, right? And all of that kind of adds more fuel to myself of, like, being creative and
Well, I think it's so important. Like, people would argue that this, as far as your acting career, or as far as the art of acting, that this has nothing to do with acting, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I think once I think you're sharpening that creative tool.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you create an episode, I think you're getting better at your craft of acting. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and it's the same thing with whether you're doing stand up
Yeah.
or whatever that thing is. I think it only enhances your acting, because good actors pull from life experiences,
Yeah.
and there's nothing uh,
Yeah.
uh, more of a life experience than you and I sitting down, never having met before,
Yeah.
talking for an hour. Like
Yeah.
this right here, that's what I'm talking about as far as like your in person audition skills. This people don't even know how to talk anymore
That's
half the
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
their heads are down in their phones or
Yeah.
whatever. And I so want to encourage people just to like get off Facebook and get off Instagram. I'm not saying it is it's bad, but I'm saying if you're spending all your time on there and not if you're spending more time on there than you are creating, then
Mm,
lights out, buddy.
yeah.
You know?
100%. And that's something I talk about all the time on my YouTube videos. I'm like, don't think you can substitute my YouTube videos for acting classes. You got to get into class. You got to get in person and get in front of the class, work with other actors in class, work with the other students, get feedback from a teacher. So
Yeah.
many people I think are, especially younger actors, that are used to they're used to being on the screens all the time, and they're used to they probably find me through YouTube and they think that this is normal. All right, I'm going to learn everything about acting through watching these YouTube videos or watch like a master class video, and they're not, like you said, they're not getting that interactions. They're not being able to
Yeah.
really talk to people, and that's uh, it's so important for life and then also for acting because you're not going to be able to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I used to back in the day, again this is dating me, but the only thing we had was as far as actual acting video stuff was Inside the Actor Studio, which was an old series that had just about. And I used
Yeah,
to kill those things, man. I would
yeah.
watch those just all the time, and I would still tell any actor to go and watch all the inside on YouTube
Oh,
or
I've seen a
what.
bunch of them. Yeah.
They're amazing. They're amazing because you get to see the greats give away their secrets.
The really
Um,
cool thing was when, they showed um, Bradley Cooper, right, as a student
oh, that was awesome.
asking a
That was awesome.
question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he
He
comes
asked De
back
Niro a
years
question, I
later.
think it was.
Yeah, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. But all that having said is there's a difference. Uh, I liken it to being a sponge. You can keep taking in all that information. You can take in all this information, but eventually you're going to get filled up, and you gotta put that back out. And you can't do that by yourself. You have to put that creativity, whether it's doing uh, like you're doing with a YouTube channel,
Hmm.
or going to acting classes, or writing a script, or doing stand up. You gotta squeeze it out and get
Yeah,
it back out there so you can get filled back up again.
that's great. Man, I'm loving all these analogies that you're giving.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal them all. We've been talking this whole time about the current movie, Still Today, which is out on basically any sort of streaming platform you can find it. Just search for it. Amazon is one of them, right? So Amazon's a big one.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so go watch that and check it out. But is there anything coming down the line for you? You talked about possibly working on the next project. So are you
Well, yeah,
already
but I'm just finished writing a script with a friend of mine in LA that we're gonna
great?
try and get taken off, depending upon what the COVID situation
Mm.
is next year. So hopefully we'll be able to shoot that. Um, but
Are
yeah,
you thinking about directing anything that you're writing?
I'm not. That's not a passion of mine
Okay,
right now.
okay,
I I I love. Um, I feel like I kind of take over sometimes, as far as like I'm a big critic of acting,
mm.
as not a critic, but like that is my wheelhouse as far
Right.
as like even in Still Today, I would go and it was just me and Terry half the time, but we go and kind of discuss scenes, and that's what
Okay.
I love doing.
Yep.
But that it's not really a passion as of right now. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it in the future, but I'm fine without it right now. So
Awesome. All right. All right, Jody, thank you so much for joining me. And this was awesome. This was great being able to chat with you. It's great meeting you for the first time. And best of luck with the release. I know it came out in
no,
November
November
10th.
10th it came out, so it's been out close to a month now.
Yeah.
So
Great. So,
check it out. Still Today. It's on all your platforms. Would love for you to support. So, and thank you, Kurt, for having me. I really appreciate it, brother.
all right. Thanks, man. See ya.
All right, bro.
Hey, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I want to thank Jody one more time for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.